Will Patrick Mahomes fall to 0-3 this week? Are the Dolphins dead yet? And are the Colts the real deal? Stick around and find out. Hey, Dave Loughren here on Twitter at Loughy_D. Hit me up if you haven't done so yet. We can take the football discussion off the YouTube and over there. And of course, if you don't mind, take a second, hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you find this content useful, entertaining, informative, whatever it may be. Even if you're just using it to fade, you know what to do. It goes a long way. We appreciate you. And leave a comment down below. Let me know your favorite plays going into week 3. Some massive spreads here, fellas. I mean, some absolutely big spreads, some weird games, some trappy games. We're going to get into every bit of that right here, picks for every game. And we kick it off with the Buffalo Bills at home, hosting the Miami Dolphins, 12.5-point favorites in some spots. I did find an 11.5, so bear with me. Look, I'm typically never about taking this many points, okay? And it isn't to say that this is my favorite game. Usually a spot like this isn't, but and we got plenty that we like. I already posted some over to Tails. I'll show you how to get all my free bets over there in a minute. We've historically seen a lot of these low-scoring games on Thursdays. You know, this is a divisional spot. It's a whole lot of points, but backing the Dolphins right now truly feels like a fool's errand. I told you I was going to take a shot. I said, you know, it's a curiosity kills the cat thing. I got to find out. And you know what? They had a shot. The offense looked okay. The defense is abysmal. They're terrible. And they ended up not being able to cover at home, lost outright to the Patriots last week. It feels like the final grains of sand are sifting through the hourglass on Mike McDaniel's tenure with the Dolphins. I mean, it's bad. The defense is wholly incompetent. The offense looked okay, but the team is so dysfunctional that I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see this bounce up again to 13. It's all over the place right now. There's 12.5, there's 11.5, there's 12s. You know, I look at it like this, and my good friend Ben Rassa, who you've seen here on the channel many times, he made a great point to me this morning when we were discussing this game. He's like, look, if the Dolphins are in fact total dust, go ahead and bet the alt spread, right? Bet the alt spread where you can grab the Bills at a big number, you know, like a 19.5 or hell, it's like a 23.5. Seriously, something like that. To where if they just steamroll them and it's over, and Mike McDaniel gets his walking papers the next day on Monday, then you got paid off in a big way. And if not, and Miami competes, it doesn't matter because they weren't going to because the Bills weren't going to cover the 11.5 anyway. Right now, I have a small play on the 11.5, and I am going to put a small one, maybe a half a unit there, which I have, maybe a half unit on the alt, and just see if they can steamroll them. If not, like I said, you eat that, and it ends up being a 1-unit play at the end of the day. You lost it just like any others. But the Dolphins might just be completely done under McDaniel, who appears to have fully lost the locker room. Rams at the Eagles. All right, Eagles 3.5-point favorites here. You know, the Rams were the only team last year that gave the Eagles a run for their money in the postseason. I mean, the Eagles just stomped everyone else they faced. This is a good football team. I mean, look, they almost won that. Had it not been for a late Jalen Carter sack, they could have potentially won that game and the Eagles wouldn't be Super Bowl champions. It's a good team, right? They have 2 elite receivers. They have a decent enough running back. The offensive line is fine. Stafford, when healthy, is good. And on the defensive line, I mean, Aaron Donald, who? Obviously, I don't take that seriously, but like, you know, you have Jared Verse, you have Braden Fisk, who may miss this game. That could be a big deal if he's out. I'd still lean the Eagles, though, and here's why. First of all, you're at home. Obviously, you'd like the 3, but 3.5 points. I like this because this is an Eagles team, and we've seen it where they can from 1,000 paper cuts with this Eagles offense. They can be boring. You know, 3rd or 4th and short is an automatic first down. If Saquon Barkley's not getting the job done like we saw in the Super Bowl, it's A.J. Brown or it's Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert's probably out, but that's less important here. I know they have a new offensive coordinator, but I don't want to overreact too much to that through only 2 weeks. That weather delay in week 1, I think, was very weird. It slowed both offenses down. Last week, they didn't need to do much. It was boring. It was methodical. They're still a 2-0 football team, reigning Super Bowl champs. And while Smith and Brown have been quiet through the first 2 weeks, these guys can explode at any point, okay? I think there are a couple issues here that are kind of concerning, especially given that Witherspoon is out for the Rams as well. That's another big loss. And the Eagles, despite losing a bunch of key pieces on that defense over the summer, Zadarius Smith, they just brought him on like 11 days ago. He looks fantastic. Rookie Jahad Campbell looks great. All of the Makuba looks well. Jordan Davis is having the best 2 games of his career. Dory Jackson's the only one that hasn't played well. But I could legitimately see Fangio shadowing with Quinyon Mitchell, potentially Adams, and then Puka, who's lined up in the slot 61% of the time this year, could see a lot of Cooper DeJean. That's how I see it. I don't know where you guys are at. Let me know down below, because I think this is a tough game, and a lot of people probably will like the Rams outside of a field goal. Give me the Eagles -3.5. Steelers at Patriots. Guys, I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, all of my bets are free this year, outside of just YouTube, right? I post a lot over on Tails that never makes it to Twitter, never makes it to YouTube, and everything that ever comes on YouTube goes there first. Typically, potentially days and definitely hours beforehand. I always put it there before I record, and then after I record, it takes another couple hours to get it up, right? So if you haven't done so yet, that first link in the description, jump over there. We're building an amazing betting platform where not just me, but a ton of other sharp bettors, you can tail all of their free bets. Just create a free account. It takes 2 seconds. Follow me, right? That's it. Turn on notifications if you'd like as well, which makes a lot of sense. And follow anybody else you want. It's super smooth. You're going to love it. And I think, why would you not just want to have access to free bets? And you can follow the people you want and grab those sharp bets whenever. Also, anything that isn't here or news that breaks later in the week, it's going there. I'm not going to specifically make a video for it. So come check it out. Hit me up, say hi, and let's sweat some bets together. All free, all year long. Steelers -1.5 of the Patriots. Look, I don't have a good read on this game right now. That's why I mentioned tails, because I could see myself betting this one depending on which ways the injuries go. But you have Alex Highsmith. He's not going to play, I don't think. I think he's already out. Derek Harmon, Sean Elliott, Joey Porter Jr., all 4 of these guys might be out. And Christian Gonzalez could remain out for New England. Clearly, that has been hurting their secondary. Just no doubt about it. I doubt this stays at 1.5 if the Steelers get good news on the injury front. But if I see that these guys are getting limited practices in tomorrow, because I record this on Tuesday afternoon, and it is still at 1.5 and hasn't moved yet, this will be a Steelers bet for me, especially given that Christian Gonzalez seems like a long shot to play. I do kind of like this as a bounce back. So I'm going to lean Steelers right now, but I'm not betting it yet until we get some injury news. We're going to try and snipe that Steelers -1.5 if we get some good news. Otherwise, I might just stay away from this game entirely. Colts -3.5 against the Titans. Yeah, this Colts team is the real deal, man. You give Daniel Jones a quality enough offensive line in front of him and a good running back, a workhorse, and Jonathan Taylor with some quality pass catching options. I mean, look, Tyler Warren's sick. This guy's going to be, might be looking at another 1,000-yard rookie season for this guy. Kind of feels like a trap, though. Like, who isn't going to want it? Was Colts -3. Now it's moved to 3.5. Cam Ward made a couple good plays last week, but I mean, it was really just Iamanair who had great cross-the-body throw from Cam Ward, across the field to Iamanair. It was sick. But also, he made an amazing down-the-sideline one-handed grab in tight coverage. The problem is they just haven't been able to consistently move the football. And I have respect for this Titans defense, but you can't go 60 minutes every game on the field. Like, you know, you have to get something out of the offense if you're the Tennessee Titans. Everything tells me to bet the Colts here. Everything. But this number makes me feel a little bit scared. Like, the pass protection's just been so bad for Ward. I'm trying to find every reason to bet the Titans at +3.5. And I honestly might just do it, because it's like, it's not just a gut play, but it's one of these spots where, like, they didn't cover in each of the first 2 weeks. Right. Well, I guess actually they did, because it closed at 8.5. We got it at 7.5. So we got the Broncos cover that game. So I guess they did, but they didn't come close to covering last week. I thought they could. It's just the offensive line. They can't block. They have no offensive production. Tennessee's defense, again, they're good, but how long can you hold up? I haven't bet it yet. I'm going to revisit this later in the week. I want to bet this game. I'm leaning Titans +3.5 here, because it feels like a trappy spot for the Colts. Obviously, I think the Colts look good, right? They look so good. They should be more than 3.5 here, but they aren't. And that always makes me scratch my head. For those of you guys who have been doing this for a while as well, you know those fishy lines always come back to bite us when you take the bait. Packers at the Browns. All right, ugly play of the week. I'm a sucker for the Browns. You guys do as you please. Fortunately for you, this content is free. You're not paying for me to tell you to take the Browns at +9.5 on DraftKings, which is the only book to still have a 9.5. Everywhere else is, believe it or not, 7.5. It's 9.5 minus 115, but still, I know you're not moving through key numbers, but that's still, 5 cents to move 2 points here. I like the Browns at home, not to win this game, obviously. And if I have egg on my face after this week, we may just be off of the Browns for good. But this defensive line, I still have respect for them, especially against a non-Lamar mobility, like a quarterback that doesn't have Lamar Jackson mobility. I like them a lot more. We saw them, what they did against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I feel like the Browns are somewhere in between what we saw against the Bengals and the Ravens. They're not good, and they're not as bad as we saw. Now, the Packers look like one of the best teams in the entire league right now, but they have injuries to the offensive line, multiple key injuries, right? They just lost Jaden Reed. This team does have some concerns. Do I still think they should be a big favorite in this game? Yeah, obviously they're a far and away the better team. There's no doubt about that. But also, it just feels like 9.5 is too much. Too much. And Quinshon Judkins, he played 20 snaps and touched the ball 13 times. He looked pretty good too. He had a 30-plus yard run. I think he's going to be more involved. The Browns at home are a tricky team. It's a weird spot here. I'm just going to do it. Browns plus 9.5. I will bet this one myself, and I'll probably kick my own ass for it afterwards. Browns 9.5. You can still get that one on DraftKings. Falcons laying 4.5 at the Panthers. Panthers miraculously covered last week. I mean, they were down 24 points in the second half, and Bryce Young was forced to throw 55 times, which is clearly not what you're looking for. This game actually wasn't really close at all. You had the Cardinals defense kind of just sitting back. I mean, I think you'll see a lot of this with Carolina, where you hit some backdoor covers this year in games where they don't really have a chance, and the final score doesn't really indicate what happened throughout the 60 minutes. But, Atlanta on the other side had a convincing win against J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings, but it was an ugly 12-6 game going into the fourth quarter. McCarthy was abysmal, and the Falcons sacked him 6 times. This is what I want to get to. This is kind of the point to make here. I know a lot of people, you could call them sharps, like to pile on to the Panthers, and sometimes it works. Late last season it did, and we were on the right side of a handful of those as well. But the crazy thing about the Falcons is this pass rush might actually be much improved. If they improve this pass rush, the secondary isn't bad. The reason the secondary struggled so much is because this has been one of the worst pass rushes in the league over the last handful of years. If they've improved that with some, early rookie picks, some free agent signings, which I think they have, this is actually a spot where I could like the Falcons. Typically, I'd want Carolina here as a 4.5-point home dog in a divisional spot. But the Falcons, I don't know how the Carolina Panthers slowed down the Falcons' run game with Bijan Robinson. Michael Penix Jr. doesn't even have to be particularly good. And now the Falcons have a pass rush, or at least it appears that they do. I don't love it, but give me Falcons minus 4.5. Texans at the Jaguars. Jags laying 1.5 points here. All right, so, the Jags lose to Jake Browning after Joe Burrow goes down. Browning gets picked off 3 times and they still win that game. Insane. T. Higgins had a ridiculous touchdown reception. Jamar was targeted 16 times with 14 receptions. Jake Browning just, whatever. We'll get to him when we get to that game because I have some thoughts there. But the Texans, we were on Texans minus 2.5. We hit the CJ Stroud prop if you watch the primetime games. Did what we hoped would happen. One big run, call it a day. Good. But I'm looking at this going, great, we're 2-0 in this game. At least we should be. Tampa Bay drives down the field after Houston's defense held up all game long, and they end up scoring. And Houston ends up not only not covering, but losing that game outright, falling to 0-2 in what is typically a soft AFC South. And now they're 0-2, sitting down there in the basement with the Tennessee Titans, who have a rookie quarterback. You have Liam Cohen, you have Trevor Lawrence, who I'm just not convinced is very good anymore. But on the other side, you have a completely dysfunctional offense. CJ Stroud cannot get protected. This offensive line is so bad. Todd Bowles just said, Todd Bowles said, go. Just go get him. Just go get him all game long. And that's exactly what they did, right? And they ended up having a chance to win, but a low-scoring game. Houston's saving grace is their defense. That's it. I'll lean Houston plus 1.5 here. I'm not betting this game. Both teams look dysfunctional right now. Trevor Lawrence and the offense could be way better than they've been, and that defense hasn't shown me anything outside of a decent enough pass rush. I'll lean Texans, but I want nothing to do with this one. Jets at the Bucks. Buccaneers minus 6.5 points. All right, so there's 6.5 out there. I'm just going to tell you how I'm going to play it. I am going to play the minus 6.5, and I'm going to pay a little extra on FanDuel because it's 7 everywhere else. Fields sustained a concussion. If he can't play, it's going to be Tyrod Taylor. Even if he does, I think I've seen enough from this Bucs defense and offense through the first 2 weeks to prefer them at home. I'm pretty sure you're going to see a lot of we'll call them pro bettors be on this Jets side, and I do understand it, but it's hard to run against Tampa Bay. If you can't get the run game going with Breece Hall, as we saw last week, it's going to be a very long day. And even with the loss of Kalijah Kancey, it looks like he has a torn pec, which is just a brutal injury. This is still a really tough defense, man. Todd Bowles can make your life miserable, and he's always been able to do that. The Jets defense has been a sieve and a shell of its old self. Remarkable. It's just, to me, I can't believe they've given up 64 points through the first 2 games. My biggest miss through the first 2 weeks is thinking that this Jets defense would get back to playing like they did in 2023, except now they're playing worse than they did in 2024. I couldn't have been more wrong last week thinking they'd hang around against the Bills either. But the good thing about that is, we can all shit talk each other and it's fun to do. Like, oh my God, it was so far off. The great thing about betting in football or any sport is like you either win or you lose. You could bet a spread with a dog being a 6.5 point dog. If they lose by 7 or if they lose by 27, it makes no difference whatsoever. Maybe in the pride department, but outside of that, a loss is a loss. And at that point, I turned the game off and went to something else, knowing that there was no shot anyway. So I wiped I washed my hands of it, and it's still a bad read, bad game. Maybe they bounce back in this spot. Typically, you want to grab these type of teams coming off these blowout losses. I can't get there right now, though. Buccaneers minus 6.5 on FanDuel. Bengals at the Vikings. All right, so this is likely going to be Vikings at 3.5, 3-point favorites. And I do tell you guys when I like games, and I'll tell you guys when I'm leaning on games, or when I actually like this game, and I think I like it more than most. Vikings minus 3. This is going to be probably a Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz matchup. How fun. Honestly, though, this just comes down to defense for me. You have a Brian Flores-led defense and a Kevin O'Connell coach team. This is just something that to bet on if you're talking about backup quarterbacks, because both teams have very good playmakers. Like, I see your Justin Jefferson and raise you a Jamar Chase. Yeah, you have T. Higgins and you have no Jalen Naylor on the other side, but you have Hawkinson and Jordan Mason. It looks like Aaron Jones is going to be out. You have Chase Brown, whatever, right? Just good players on both sides of the field. But I think there's a big, big difference in defense here. And as I mentioned earlier, yeah, the Vikings lost an ugly game on the final score. That was a 12-6 game going into the fourth quarter. Defenses eventually wear down when your quarterback is terrible and continues to put you back on the field. So, you got Jake Browning, who got the win. Look, credit him. He got the win, but he also got picked 3 times last game against the Jags. I think Flores' defense can make him miserable here, especially given how often they blitz and how bad the Bengals' offensive line is. I don't want to ignore that. Like, it resulted in yet another devastating injury, 3+ months, maybe season-ending injury for Joe Burrow. Huge surprise, right? Happens all the time. J.J. McCarthy hasn't officially been ruled out, but with a high ankle sprain, it looks like he's not going to play. And honestly, his absence is at least a temporary net positive for the Vikings with how poorly he's played. I think O'Connell would be happy to get Wentz, albeit, look, not the best backup, but a veteran in there who can at least use what he has to move the offense and stop getting sacked 18 times and picked off and put in bad situations. I do like the Vikings minus 3 here. Raiders and the Commanders. Commanders 3.5-point favorites. Going to keep this one very quick. Not touching it right now. Maybe I'll have something later. You know where to find it, but I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to play. And if he does, in fact, sit out of this game with a knee injury, I don't really see how this Washington Commanders team can operate. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's probably not the answer. You have no more Austin Eckler in the passing game. I don't see it if Marcus Mariota is there. He's mobile, but he's not even close to Jaden Daniels at all. Geno Smith's coming off a terrible Raiders debut at home in their home opener, 3 picks and a disgustingly bad loss that I got bid on. But right now, just no play. Guys, this was at 6.5. It's down to 3.5 for a reason, but that's a hedge too. Like there's just a real hedge there because we have no idea what's going to happen. If you think that Jaden Daniels sits, you could be wise to just grab the Raiders outside of 3 right now. That's what I would do. I don't have a good feel for it. He's day to day, and we saw last year on multiple occasions he did play through injuries. I think one of them was a minor knee injury as well. So I don't want to do that, and I don't want to gamble on him playing either. We have 15 other games to talk about, and that's what we're going to do. Saints at the Seahawks. Seahawks minus 7.5. I'm betting this one over at Bet365, and I would suggest that you guys all do the same. Why? Because you're getting $200 in bonus bets when you sign up. Here's what you do. Click the link in the description. Deposit $10, bet $5, and the moment that bet settles, you've got $200 in bonus bets injected straight into your account. That's all you have to do. And they've been throwing out huge promos every single week for every primetime game, for every Sunday slate, every single time, big time bonuses. If you're not there, collect it. I tell you every time, anytime someone goes, I'm going to give you 200, you give me 10. Why would you not do it with a sports book if in real life you would do that in the snap of a finger and run the other direction before they change their mind? So check it out. Links down there for Bet365. 21 years old or to gamble. Gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We grabbed a lot of dogs last week. Some of them went well, and others, the Jets and the Browns, they did not, okay? I've already atoned, okay? I'm bad bets. But I find myself on a decent amount of favorites this week, which... who knows? Maybe just like all the dogs cover. This is one of them. I definitely think this will be the public side, and that scares me, right? And look, there are times where the public just flat out cleans up on any given week. Maybe this will be the week because there are a few bets where I like the public side. The reason is the Saints have managed to stick around through the first 2 weeks, okay? Against a heavily banged up Niners team without their starting quarterback and the Cardinals. But both of these games, I mean, they were both home games. They still lost, and they failed to cover in both. Now you're playing in Seattle against a good Seahawks defense, a good enough offense, and a good enough. It's just not something I want to mess around with all that much. Like, yeah, sure, Seattle being favored by north of 7 isn't the greatest feeling ever, but it also feels like a game where the bottom might just fall out for Rattler and company in this offense. Far and away the toughest matchup for the Saints. On the road, first road game in Seattle. And the Seahawks are somehow only favored by 1 more point at home than the Cardinals were favored on the road. Maybe that's the sign that we should be betting the Saints. I get it. That's not lost on me. I know they'll be public here. I just simply don't know how the Saints stop the run. I think Sam Darnold's good enough, and I don't know how they're going to move the ball against this defense. It's a weird sport. Crazy things happen. Seahawks end up winning by 7. I go, yep, saw it coming. But I do like the Seahawks at minus 7.5 here. Hey, listen, maybe hold off. Maybe this moves to 7. Maybe enough money comes in on the other side and this goes to 7 and you can snatch it up. That might be the move, but keep an eye on it for sure. Broncos at the Chargers. Chargers minus 2.5 here. All right, so last week we took the Colts at plus 2.5 against the Broncos. They ended up winning outright. What a fantastic game that was. 2 good football teams. We also had the Raiders plus 3.5 against the Chargers. God, Geno Smith was so bad. But this week I want to go Broncos plus 2.5 on the road against the Chargers. I'm a big Justin Herbert fan. Everybody knows that. And while I think you could say, you know what? The Broncos defense is overrated. And I've seen that going around on Twitter after the first, not week 1, but last week. I don't see it that way. I think the Colts are good. The Colts are at home, coming off, flying high off a big win. They're feeling good. I'm not shocked by that. I think that's more, we should be giving more praise towards the Colts after Sunday than it should be an indictment on the Broncos. Like, Pat Surtain's still cream of the crop. They still bring a ton of pressure and get a ton of pressure on the quarterback. They still have a good run defense, a great secondary. Bo Nix is still good. Franklin looks like the clear number 2. He's contributing alongside Sutton, and they have a better run game than they did last year. I think this game is going to be really close. You have the Chargers at 2-0, Broncos at 1-1. I also think you could sprinkle the money line here on the Broncos. Going to be a great game. I don't see this getting out of hand one way or another. Broncos plus 2.5, but also I think the money line could be a spot we want to bet. I may throw this one on tails. Let me think about this one after I record. This could be a spot at plus 125. Yeah, I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to throw it in there right after this is over, but you guys are hearing it now. Broncos money line, I'm going to sprinkle on that as well. I kind of like that. Cowboys at the Bears. Bears minus 1.5 at home. How about that? Look, I know the focus is going to be on how bad the Bears defense was last week, but can we also talk about how bad the Cowboys defense is too? Like, Deron Bland might be back, but it seems iffy at best. And the Cowboys just added Jadeveon Clowney, but do we think that's enough to stop the bleeding? I don't. I certainly don't. Unfortunately for the Bears, they just lost Jalen Johnson. He's going to be out for an extended period of time. And this defense was gutted by the Lions last week. I think there's nuance here, though, right? Like, I'm not sure it's fair to expect the Chicago Bears to just fully click out of the gate with a new head coach and a new DC, right? Dennis Allen over there after getting fired by the Saints. You can say the same with Dallas, too, if we're being honest. You know, you have Schottenheimer, but they have some cohesion on offense. You still have a veteran in Dak Prescott. I don't know, man. I look at it like this. This I could see this game shooting out. This might be an over gold mine for all year long if you're talking about the Cowboys, because you have Lamb, Pickens, Javonte Williams looks rejuvenated, Ferguson, and of course you have Dak Prescott, decent enough pass blocking, not great, and an underwhelming defense right now with injuries to the Bears, but a horrible defense for the Cowboys as well. I don't want to overreact to last week's loss to Detroit. And I think it's possible that Caleb Williams might just not be good. I still think he'll be able to move the ball here. With that in mind, give me over 49.5 in this one. Cardinals at the Niners. Niners 1.5 point home favorites. You know, Kyler Murray's actually 4-4 against the 49ers for his career. He's played well against him. He's also had the shit beat out of him a few times too by them. But considering Brock Purdy seems unlikely to play, according to Kyle Shanahan, I kind of like the Cardinals here, as a matter of fact. I think the move might just be Cardinals money line at plus 114 instead of grabbing them at plus 1.5. Like, we saw Mac Jones acquit himself well last week, 3 touchdown passes, pretty clean game. And if you've watched any of my preseason videos, you know I think Mac Jones is probably a little better than he's given credit for if he has the weapons. Jawan Jennings is banged up again, though. You still have no Ayuk. Like, this whole team everywhere, there's so many injuries. And that was against the Saints last week, right? I'm not pretending the Cardinals are world beaters on defense. They haven't had tough matchups despite starting 2-0, but it's a divisional spot. They're more polished on offense for sure than the Saints are. I placed a small bet, like I said, on this money line for the Cardinals at plus 114. It would have been bigger, but I don't know if Brock Purdy's going to play yet. And their secondary got banged up last week. So a few things to keep an eye on. Could definitely see myself adding to this one as the week goes on. The Chiefs at the Giants. This was the first bet that I threw into tails. I did it. It was either Sunday night or Monday morning. I saw it and I said, I got to do it. So you guys got it first. You'll always get these before the line moves. Okay. Always. Right. And the line did move. If you're on tails or if you're not on tails yet, use the link down in the description. Click it. Right. Seriously, 2 seconds. Create an account and you can just sign up without even creating credentials. Like, just do it with Gmail or whatever. And then just follow me over there and anybody else you want. You can turn on notifications. It's that simple. Even hit those sweet fire emojis too to show that we're all in this one together. It was Chiefs minus 5.5 against the Giants. First bet I posted there because it just feels like the biggest overreaction of the week. You know, you have Russell Wilson with a 450-yard passing game last week. Dallas's defense, man, they're terrible. Shout out to Wilson. Some beautiful balls. Also a couple terrible ones. And Malik Neighbors is the GOAT, okay? But Xavier Worthy's expected to play this week. Massive addition to get him back. I don't see Kansas City falling to 0-3. If this moves through 6, I'm out. But at minus 5.5, where I saw 5.5 out there, we got it at minus 110. I think it's like minus 120 now, but I'd still pay a bit extra on the 5.5. I just like the Chiefs here. You know, if they burn us here, God, that'd be crazy. But I think people are going to overreact and just assume the Chiefs. Minus 5.5 on Kansas City. I have to do it, whether I want to or not. All right, we'll close it out with the Lions and the Ravens. Guys, remember, every Monday and Thursday, I have standalone videos with sides, props, parlays, bonuses, promos, all that stuff right here. They come out around 10:30 Eastern time for Monday night standalone and Thursday night standalone games. This was at 6 and it's now down to 4.5. I'm leaning Ravens minus 4.5, but seeing that line movement, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, and I haven't bet it yet for one very specific reason. You have injuries to Kyle Van Noy. You have injuries to Marlon Humphreys. that would be a really big hit to this defense. And, you know, I look at the Lions coming off a 52-point explosion at home against the Bears, but we saw that coming. I'm not saying we saw 52-21, but we saw a bounce back here after an overreaction from week one. Lamar's just been so good historically against these NFC opponents, and he's at home. I got to lean Baltimore here, but let's hold off. Come see me on Monday, and we'll talk more about this one. As of now, still so many unknowns. I don't think this moves all that much more now that it's down to 4.5. I think we'll be able to wait and find some good props come Monday morning as well. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe before you go. Hit me up over on Tails and Twitter, and I'll see you back here for the next one. Bye-bye.